10 heavens of God. Having we corrected the system of belief transmitted by Yeshua, we understand that we are messianic, neither Christians nor Jews, and as such, we need to learn to look properly at these texts called apocryphal, even because some of them were normally accepted by the first century congregation. After studying many of them, as the first century brethren did, I noticed that many of them have spiritual authority, like the Book of Enoch. There is a book called Second Book of Enoch, or the Book of Enoch's Secrets, whose original text is now found only in the Slavic language. In this work we find Enoch going to the 10th heaven, where the face of God can be seen. This 10th firmament is called in Hebrew Aravat or Aravoth, as we see in 2nd Enoch chapter 20, verse 3. Regardless of whether it was Enoch who actually wrote it or not, this work contains elements considered and accepted by the mystical Jews and scholars of Kabbalah. Let's check them out. Having been visited by angels, as we see in chapter 1, verse 6, Enoch is carried to the first firmament, which we call heaven. Every firmament has one particular thing. First heaven, where many angels work for the good functioning of the earth. Wind, rain, dew, snow, seasons, all ruled by angels. Second heaven, there are imprisoned the unfaithful angels who disobeyed and sinned, as we see in Genesis, Bereshit, and in the book of Enoch, the first. They receive torture and their leader is trapped in the 5th heaven. Third heaven, where is the Gan Eden, we call paradise. It's the place where God rests and the righteous rest for the final consummation, as we see in chapter 9. Its region to the north is dark and reserved for sinners, as in chapter 10. Fourth heaven, there Enoch contemplates the orbit of the sun and moon, chapter 11. His courses in heaven are described in detail in chapters 16 and 17. Fifth heaven, the highest degree of heavenly beings among those who sin are imprisoned there. They are the leaders of those sinful angels, as reported in Genesis, chapter 6, and the same in the book of Enoch, the first. Sixth heaven, where we find the angels responsible for the seasons, rivers, oceans, and fruits of the earth. They also take note of all things humans do before God, as we see in chapter 19. It's a very strong thought that every force of the nature has one angel upon it, making us understand that the earth runs well only because God keeps caring about every detail. Seventh heaven, where we find archangels, cherubim, seraphim, ophanim, the 24 elders of the spiritual court, and the throne of Yah, the throne of God. What is the reason for the existence of these beings? It's because God, as a king, he must have his own bunch of commoners next to him to serve him. No king is a king without his commoners to serve him. And the same goes to God. Eighth heaven, called Muzalot, is what causes changes in the seasons, drought, humidity, and the 12 signs of the zodiac, which are only constellations, nothing more. Zodiac are only constellations, as we see in chapter 21. Ninth heaven, called Kuhavim, where are the celestial houses of the 12 signs of the zodiac. And the 10th heaven, called Aravot, as we see in chapter 22 of the second of Enoch, is the only place where Yah's face can be seen. The face of Yah is described by Enoch as the cast iron fused in the fire that sparks and burns. That's why we cannot look at him. This idea of 10 levels of firmament is well known in Jewish religious culture. Shaul HaShaliach, named Paul the Apostle, said to have been taken in spirit to the 7th firmament, as we see in 2 Corinthians 12, verse 2. And in the chapter 5 of the same epistle, he says we have from God a building. Why he says we have a building from God? Since we are faced with such texts containing so biblical Jewish and messianic elements. We cannot despise them. After all of our belief system that we have today around the world originated itself from within the Jewish religious culture. Those who have eyes see